Patty, Ciamara, thanks so much for joining me today. It's been great to work with you both. We're really excited to be supporting Chapin in this important hire for a technology director, and want to get a chance to have you all tell us a bit about the school and what you're looking for. But just want to start first and foremost with your backgrounds. Patty, tell us a little bit about yourself and what brought you to the school.
Okay, thank you very much. So my name is Patty Foster. I am the Chief Finance and Operations Officer at the school. I started here about a year ago. Before coming to Chapin, I actually have 20 years in the business world. I was on the corporate side for a long time, worked at MasterCard International, did power and gas, was in public accounting. But I also then moved into schools around 21 years ago. So now I consider myself officially a school person. A few more years doing schools than the corporate side. I did one school up in Connecticut for about 13 years and then went overseas for a while and came back actually to join Chapin. Saw the job here and was really excited. Chapin's a great school and have been very happy in my role here for the past year.
Super, super. Thank you so much. Ciamara, tell us about your background and how you came to the school.
Sure, absolutely. So my name is CMR Hall, and I'm the Associate Head of School here at Chapin. This is my third year as the Associate Head of School, but it's my ninth year at the school altogether. I actually came to Chapin in 2016 to be the Director of Middle and Upper School Admissions, and then Director of Enrollment Management got added to that before my predecessor as Associate Head retired. And I interviewed and was fortunate enough to get the role. But this is probably, I was trying to do the math. I think this is either year 25 or 26 in education. I did start in the classroom. I actually have taught every age, K to 12. I spent some time in the early childhood classroom space, in a lower school space, a middle school space, became an administrator, but even then as an administrator, I have maintained a teaching capacity in some way over my career. I do value being an administrator that has direct student contact. And what drew me to Chapin, as what's drawn me to other schools, is when, especially as an administrator, when a school values if an administrator wants to teach or wants to be an advisor or wants to work with a club, because I do think that that's an important part of a school community. So yeah, 25-ish, maybe 26 years in education. And I'm originally a New Yorker, but I have worked in, like I said, early childhood. I've worked in Washington, D.C. in a nursery through grade 8 Episcopal school. I've worked at a Quaker day and boarding school. And this is my first girls' school. So I feel like I've hit a bunch of different cultures and communities, but I really like being here.
Well, and let's talk a bit about the unique culture and community of Chapin. And Ciamara, you spoke about the obvious. It is an all-girls school. It's right there in the heart of New York City. It's been around a long time, has an outstanding reputation. But take somebody who hasn't ever stepped foot in the school through the metaphorical halls, if you will. Tell us a bit about what it's like to work there, the students, the culture, the academic priorities, etc.
Sure, sure. I mean, that's actually, Gabe, that's an easy one because I was the admissions director. So my elevator speeches and how to get people to fall in love with Chapin. I'm a little bit rusty, but I think I can remember. So it's, we've been around for a long time. We're getting ready in a year and a half to celebrate our 125th anniversary. Our founder was a visionary. She was a suffragette. When she bought this property and built the school, she bought the air rights. So just the fact that our founder was a visionary means that I feel like we as a school get to be visionaries. We get to be innovative, which I think definitely ties into what, Patty and I will probably describe for the new technology director, but sort of a place that really does a good job of balancing the fact that we have these old traditions that are 125 years old, but also have new things, new spaces, very broad curriculum that all sort of goes into being this really balanced place that's got a rich history, but is also very forward thinking and forward looking. Yes, you mentioned the academic program, Gabe, and it is really rich. It's really robust. As a preparatory institution, we have a very impressive, college admissions because of sort of the richness of not just the academic experience, but the extracurricular and co-curricular experience that the students are offered here. Being in New York City, we don't take for granted by just saying, yeah, it's cool, we're in New York. We use New York as a classroom. So much of our academic program and our co-curricular program uses the city as a classroom through field trips and partnerships, both virtual and in person. I think that that is really, really special. We have a global outlook. We have students that are very, very interested in studying abroad or having experiential learning, whether it's like a 2-week trip in the summer or over spring break, where they're doing some really important engagement with outside of 100 East End Avenue. I could talk about this for a long time, but I'm going to leave some for Patty because I'm always curious to hear. I remember what I loved when I decided to come on, and since I've been here, but she's got like a fresh perspective that I don't have, right? So Patty,
Yeah, Patty would
what
love
do
to.
you love?
Yeah, what are your,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Well, I do want to say, especially after being in a couple of schools, which I'll refer to as high-powered schools, right? We all, I was in Connecticut, I was in overseas in an American school where, it is a college prep school and people have expectations for what that means and what they expect for their children. I will say coming to Chapin and seeing the kids here I've been very impressed. Some of the things they're exposed to, some of the things they do. If you look at the brochure that has been pulled together just for this job posting. You start looking at the HCI, you look at the Fly Lab, you look at so many of the things that these kids do, and I kind of scratch my head and go, wow. It's a wow factor. Absolutely. The things these kids do and what they accomplish. It's quite impressive. So I do love that piece of it. That's great about Chapin. At the same time, I think there is a camaraderie with those of us that work here. One of the things, we have our cafeterias downstairs in our dining halls, and talking to people who started at the same time I did, one of the things everybody says is, you walk in and people are nice. You get to meet people, people are friendly. We do have, 2 buildings all under one roof. We are connected. So you do spend a lot of time in the elevators and you just start talking to people and people will say hello. And it's a very collegial atmosphere, which I think is really nice. And I think that's something that's really important because we spend more time with the people we work with than we spend with our families, right? At the same time, I think one of the things I like that CMR also mentioned, the school is steeped in tradition. There's a ton of tradition here. It is 125 years old. At the same time, I think the administration and the team are looking to be innovative. We're looking to make changes. We're not afraid to change. You will hear it's the Chapin way, because there is a lot of that in a 125-year-old school. But at the same time, the school's not stagnant. You don't stand still. You keep going. You're innovative. And I think that's something which is really interesting. And I think that's something that's going to be really important for a new technology director as we go into the next phases. What is out there and what can make us even move that much further?
Well, let's
Yeah.
build on that. And you talk about, innovation, which often does tie to technology, although innovation has many different flavors and strands within a school. And so we don't want folks to think it's all about tech, but I think having come visited the school and having felt very welcomed as a visitor, I can tell that technology is an important aspect to so many parts of the school at large, both academics and operations. Patty, talk initially just about what you're looking for, what you're hoping for, priorities for you that the next person would bring, and also just priorities for the school at large in terms of where technology is headed.
Sure. So, being the director of operations, obviously technology has a nice little, place in that organizational structure. We're very, very focused on security, our infrastructure. I mean, so many things that, we do day to day. Who knew, like when COVID happened, how important technology was going to be for all of us at that point in time? But we've been able to build on that, right? So, using technology in the right ways. But it's the back office structures. That's one thing. We have a new system with Veracross, with our SIS system that we've been working on. And again, that's all the back office side. And then you look at it from the perspective of the school. I think one of the things I'm looking for is somebody who has obviously very strong technology skills. At the same time, I want them to be inquisitive. Because there's a possibility that, someone hasn't been in a classroom or hasn't been in a school before. So they're going to have to be inquisitive. They're going to have to know the kind of questions to ask and not be afraid to ask questions and get to know people and see how a school works. And even if you've been in a school, what kind of school was that compared to where we are and what we want to do differently? So they've got to be willing to ask questions, be out there with the people and talking to everybody to understand this school. But then also take us to that next level.
That's great. CMR, to talk about some of the people in particular, there's a lot of great folks who are working on the ed tech side, on the innovation tech through your maker and design lab. Just talk about either partnerships there that you see that could be important, and or in other lanes for the faculty and the folks who are delivering the great program to students.
Yeah, definitely. And just thinking about some of the things that Patty said that I would love to build on and answering your question. When she started talking about innovation, one thing that I think that the next tech director could look forward to is a curiosity from their colleagues around what's out there and what's available. Our previous tech director was very good about saying, hey, let's just try it. And then we can do a postmortem to see how it went. And then we can pivot accordingly, right? That there was really a sense of sometimes the best way is to not know everything right away perfectly, but to make some responsible decisions and try something and then adjust and pivot as we go. So I think that the next tech director should look forward to a community that is used to, okay, let's try it, right? And specifically the tech integrators met with the tech director just to talk about the ways in which the academic program, the technology that's in the academic program could best be supported by initiatives that the tech director might be interested in. So this next person doesn't necessarily have to be an educator, but we definitely have academic tech coordinators that love the idea of partnering with a tech director. You mentioned our makerspace, so that's our HCI, the Ohio Center for Innovation. That person is in a brand new role that started a year ago. So he's in his second year, and that is his policy as well. It's an open door. Let's see what the technologies are. What's the most responsible way of using them? How do they benefit the work of the adults? And how do they, as a result, then benefit the work of the students? So that I think is, maybe that's a very general way of answering your question, but I just think that this is a community that's like, all right, well, yeah, we've got some good information. How can we be responsible and effective with it? And then let's figure it out as we go. And it's a specific example of just being open, right? Our community, our professional community being open to the try it is that a specific example when the new director of the HCI, right? So our Ohio Center for Innovation, it's all things STEAM, right? The science, technology, engineering, arts, math, right? So his whole goal last year was to draw in the teachers who assumed that a STEAM makerspace wasn't for them, right? And so he reports to me, and when he and I met, I was like, what's going to be your measure of success this year, right? And he was like, yeah, not that the tech coordinators and the tech integrators come and use the space, but that we get a humanities teacher that figures out a way to use technology to support her curriculum. And he did it multiple times over. He had open afternoon sessions where faculty and admin and staff could go in and play with the technology and see what the resources were. And I think that is really illustrative of what our community is like around technology. And just as long as I said, it's responsible and effective, then we'll give it a try.
That's super.
It's not about the toys. It's not just about the toys. It's about what you're doing with those toys and how you bring that in the kids.
Exactly.
And that's all the toys in the world, but they sit on a shelf. That's not doing anybody
That's
any
exactly
good,
right. And our former tech director and this HCI director were both like, yep, we played with the toys. They're not so good. They're just toys. They won't actually make your work more effective or more enjoyable or more organized. So it was just great that they were willing to vet things and then to bring things into us, like Patty was saying. But it's always about being responsible and effective.
My,
And look at AI right now, what's going on with AI and how we're all talking about using that going forward. It's amazing. And there's so much out there and it's scary for people, especially, if you look at back office jobs and things, people are like, oh, if we do AI, suddenly my job's going to go away. Job's not going away. You can do things differently and you can do things and, be more productive in a different way. So there's even those kind of things that I don't think we've even touched on or scratched the surface of yet.
Yeah.
my sense, again, having visited the school, is that, and you talked about earlier, there's definitely a curiosity and a desire to know and to innovate. And there's that healthy, we're not just gonna jump into the pool, because we want to be first or whatnot. And could one of you talk about, like, is that part of that balance between tradition and always moving forward, or what is it about Chapin that has kind of kept that flame of curiosity and innovation alive, but not at the expense of, like, just going all into something because it sounds cool, technology or otherwise, quite frankly.
Right, right. No, that's a good question. I think that the leadership, when I think about who, like my predecessor, the associate head, and the head before our current head, one was a lifelong educator, like in the classroom. The other had been a coach and actually had had done multiple roles in her 40 years at Chapin. And she was always on the front edge of, is the new thing going to work for us? And how do we make sure it's going to work or not? Right. And so I think that their leadership informed some of that culture setting around trying new things, right? The previous head was also when we made a really big decision for the time to move away from APs to college level design courses by faculty. Do you know what I'm saying? So I feel that we could probably credit, like they say that culture is set from the top. So I think that, like I said, the person before me in this role as associate head was in multiple roles at Chapin before becoming associate head, and she was here for 40 years. And the woman that she was head with for most of that time had been an educator at one point, had actually taught in the French classroom. This woman had and done multiple things before becoming a head of school. So I think that yeah, I think that probably set the tone, and then giving people space to try things, right? Patty said it a little bit before, I said it a little bit before, that we try to say yes or let's see how it goes, as opposed to being like a no school first. More like, let's ask some good questions, right? We're a yes and, or a yes, or all right, let's see, or who else do we need to bring in to talk about what it could look like to do it better? So I think maybe that elasticity around change, right? And Patty talked about that a little bit earlier, and sort of looking forward and trying things out. I think that probably might be how I would answer that. I don't know if that was.
No, very helpful, very helpful. Final question, just to sort of think about transition, and maybe Patty, for you to build upon this one. This is an opportunity that certainly, if someone has school experience, great, but if they don't have a school experience, great as well. This is definitely one that you want to, allow anybody who's excited about working at Chapin. Since you made the change from corporate a while back, just talk about what that was like when you went to your first school, how you found that transition, and any advice you might have for somebody who has not worked in a school yet, but is excited to work in a place like Chapin. What advice you might have for them, or what that transition was like, and how it can be a very successful one.
Sure. I think one of the things, especially when you're looking at the operational side of the house, is the school it's a business, regardless of what that business is. Is it I mean, we're in sales, and we're in a lot of different things as we go through our day to day, right? So I think somebody coming in from the corporate world or in a different, not an elementary school kind of environment or a middle school kind of environment, I think what you'd find is it's a little bit different, but probably it's because it's a little more fun. I always say, if you're having a bad day, just walk down the hall and see a kindergartner. You're good. The world's a beautiful place. So But there is a business behind all of it. So you're still looking at the infrastructure of the technology. You're looking at the, what makes us tick and how we move and make sure everything is secure and all of those things. So that part is really the same thing. I think where it would become a little bit different for somebody would be exactly what we've been talking about with working in education, getting into the classrooms, bringing tools that maybe they hadn't thought about in the past, but it's being open-minded to all of that, not being afraid to listen. The first year, I would say in any new job, the first year you're listening a lot. You spend a lot of time absorbing and listening and seeing what's going on. But it's no different than going from one company to another. It really isn't, but be open-minded, put a smile on your face because those little ones just make it all worthwhile.
That's great. And Ciamara, maybe a final question from a different angle, just in terms of putting on your mission hat. What, just for somebody who might be considering working at Chapin, what makes it such a special place? What has kept you there? Don't sell it to a parent, but sell it to somebody who's thinking about
Yeah.
working there. Why Chapin?
Yeah, I think that if whoever is watching this video and really truly considers themselves a collaborative person, a risk taker in the sense of new ideas and working with colleagues, then they're going to find a lot of opportunities here to do that. We have an onboarding program for our new PC professional community members. And we specifically, starting this year, decided to put up a buddy system where your buddy is someone who's in a completely different division or different department from you. And we are doing it intentionally because we think that you can always learn from somebody that's doing a completely different role. And you might just end up connecting with them personally as well. But we're trying so intentionally to be a community. So if you have been used to, I check in and I check out and my work is done, that's going to take some adjustment, because when you get here, you might get pulled into something over the weekend. Patty knows what I'm talking about. If it's big, you might realize that there's the winter play is happening for middle school, and you really might want to just check out the dress rehearsal. This is going to be the place where, you can learn and grow professionally as a director of tech, but you can't avoid the fact that we're a community that shows up for each other. And so that's why I've stayed. One, like I said in the beginning, I'm an administrator, but I center the kids and I always have to teach. I teach one class. It's impossible to teach more than that. But this person might get to be an advisor for an upper school student, or a co-advisor for a club. That's what's kept me here, is that, to Patty's point, we spend so many hours here and we are really, really thoughtful about making it a place where people want to be.
Well, you've definitely, from my lens, made it a place where I think a lot of technology professionals would want to be. And I appreciate your taking the time today. And we look forward to working with you on the rest of the search. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.